You arrive without footsteps, as if the floor already knows you. The air is warm and dim, lit by a steady amber glow that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. You stand at the entrance of a quiet library, vast but not overwhelming, its shelves stretching patiently into the distance. Nothing rushes you, nothing expects you. You breathe in slowly, and the breath feels welcomed. You breathe out, and the silence stays kind. This library feels alive, but not busy. It hums softly, like distant air moving through a building that has stood for a very long time. Every shelf holds books that look well loved, their spines smooth, their pages resting. You sense somehow that each book belongs to you. These are not ordinary books. Each one feels like a cell, calm and complete, carrying a story that knows how to continue itself. Together, they form something larger, something coherent and gentle. Your body. You move slowly between the shelves, and the light follows at an unhurried pace. You realize there is no disorder here, no frantic rewriting, no chaos hiding in the corners. Instead, there is structure, the kind that grows naturally, like branches finding space in the air. The books are arranged with quiet logic, stories placed beside stories that belong together. Nothing shouts for attention. Everything waits its turn. As you walk, you notice that the language in these books is unfamiliar, yet deeply comforting. This is the language of DNA, though it does not feel technical or cold. It feels like handwriting passed down through generations, careful and slightly imperfect. A living script. You sense that this language does not command. It suggests. It guides. It whispers instructions about growing, resting, repairing, and letting go. You pause beside one shelf and place your hand near a book without touching it. You feel warmth, steady and reassuring. This story has been copied many times, and each copy carries the same meaning, even if the ink shifts slightly. That is how life continues, not through perfection, but through persistence. Somewhere deeper in the library, a presence stirs. Not a sound, not a movement, just awareness. A librarian stands a few shelves away. They do not startle you. They seem to have always been there. The librarian moves slowly, with the ease of someone who has read these books many times. They do not carry tools or rules. Only attention, only care. You watch as they remove a single book from a shelf and open it under the warm light. They do not frown. They do not rush. They simply notice a word where the ink has blurred. It is not a dramatic error. Nothing torn or missing. Just a small smudge, the kind that happens when a story is copied again and again across time. The librarian smiles gently, the way someone smiles when they recognize something familiar. This happens, the smile seems to say, "This is normal." You feel a quiet relief settle in your chest. Your body is not failing. It is reading itself, copying itself, living. The librarian closes the book for now and slides it back into place. No correction yet. No urgency. CRISPR has entered the room, though no one announces it. It exists here not as a machine, but as a careful method, a way of noticing and aligning. A skill learned from watching life protect itself over very long ages. You sense that CRISPR does not arrive to rewrite the story. It arrives to understand it. You take another slow breath, and the air seems to move with you. Inhale. Exhale. The library responds. You notice how calm your body feels when it is seen this way, as a place of knowledge rather than error. A place where meaning matters more than flawlessness. A thought drifts through you, gentle and almost humorous. If your cells could wear reading glasses, they probably would. Tiny ones. Very responsible. The shelves continue endlessly, yet you do not feel lost. Every story belongs somewhere, and every correction, if needed, waits patiently for the right moment. You realize that this library is not static. Books are constantly being read, referenced, quietly updated through living. But nothing here panics. You sit on a low bench that seems to appear just when you need it. The wood is warm. The silence deepens, not heavier, just fuller. You understand now that science at its best sounds like this. Quiet, observant, humble. CRISPR in this place is not a bold editor with a red pen. It is a careful finger tracing a sentence, making sure it still says what it means to say. You let your shoulders drop. You let the weight of explanation drift away. You are not here to memorize. You are here to rest inside understanding. The librarian moves again, further down the aisle, and the light shifts with them. You do not follow yet. There is no need. You stay seated, breathing slowly, feeling the steady presence of the shelves around you. Every cell book hums softly, content to be part of the whole. Your body knows this place. It has always known this place. As you breathe, the library lights glow a little warmer. The shelves seem to stretch onward, not away from you, but gently inviting. And somewhere ahead, the books begin to read themselves, quietly, endlessly, as you rest here, balanced between one breath and the next, drifting toward the calm curiosity of what comes after. You remain in the library, and the calm from before has not left you. Settles instead, like warmth spreading through your hands. The bench supports you without comment. The air hums softly, steady and patient. You breathe in slowly, as if turning a page. You breathe out, letting it settle. Somewhere around you, the books begin to read themselves. Not aloud, not in haste, just a quiet internal movement, like eyes gliding across familiar lines. Your cells do this constantly. They do not announce it. They do not concentrate the way you think of concentration. They simply know how to look. Each cell opens its book and traces the same passages again and again. How to grow when growth is needed. How to repair when something wears thin. How to rest when the light fades. These instructions feel less like commands and more like habits. Old, well-practiced habits. You wander slowly between the shelves now, noticing how the librarian moves differently here. Not correcting, just observing. This part of the library is about reading, not editing. About attention, not action. Genes appear to you now as paragraphs rather than single words. Paragraphs that carry meaning through rhythm and repetition. Paragraphs that still make sense even if one letter softens at the edge. You feel reassured by that. Meaning is resilient. As stories are copied over time, the ink sometimes blurs. A curve thickens. A dot fades. Nothing dramatic. These are not mistakes born of carelessness. They are the gentle result of living. Every time a cell divides, it copies its book. Not with fear, with familiarity. You imagine hands that have copied the same text for centuries. The writing is steady, but never perfectly identical. And still, the story continues. A small, quiet smile moves through you. Perfection was never required. Your cells know this. They reread constantly, scanning their pages the way you might scan a favorite book for a line you love. They look for continuity. They look for flow. Most of the time, they find it. The librarian pauses beside a shelf and rests a hand lightly against a spine. You sense no concern, only recognition. Reading, you realize, is an act of care. Inside each cell, tiny molecular readers move along the text, feeling for meaning rather than counting letters. They sense where to begin and where to pause. They respond to context, not isolated symbols. The science behind this is intricate, but here it feels intuitive. Like knowing where you are in a story even if you cannot see the page number. You pause and listen to the hum of the room. It sounds almost like breathing. There is something gently amusing about how seriously your cells take their reading. If they wore expressions, they would be calm but focused, glasses perched just right. Very professional, very unbothered. They reread not because they expect disaster, but because rereading keeps things aligned, keeps the story familiar. Most ink blurs do nothing at all. They pass quietly through generations of copies without changing the meaning. Your body carries thousands of these softened letters, and you feel no burden from them. You are proof that imperfection often rests harmlessly. The librarian turns a page somewhere behind you. The sound is soft, like fabric shifting. You begin to understand that disease does not come from the simple existence of variation. Variation is normal, expected. Only rarely does a blur appear in a place where meaning leans heavily on precision. Only rarely does a word matter so much that its change slowly bends the story. That realization does not alarm you, steadies you, because it means your body is not fragile. It is forgiving. You take another slow breath, and your chest rises easily. Your shoulders soften without instruction. Cells reread constantly, adjusting gently to context, environment, and time. They are not rigid readers. They are adaptable ones. The librarian steps aside, allowing you a clear view down a long aisle. Shelf after shelf glows under warm light, each holding stories that know how to persist. You feel grounded knowing that rereading is built in. That awareness is continuous. Even when something shifts, the system notices. Not urgently, not dramatically, just enough to remember what the story is supposed to sound like. A quiet pause stretches through the library. Not empty, expectant. You sense that sometimes, very gently, a single word matters more than it seems. Not often, but enough to be noticed. The librarian's hand hovers near a book again. Still no rush. You breathe in slowly, as if turning another page. You breathe out, letting it settle. The rereading continues all around you, steady and kind. As you remain here, aware that attention alone carries you forward, preparing the space for the next quiet understanding to arrive. You continue walking through the library, and the air seems even softer here. The light dims slightly, not darker, just more intimate, like evening settling in. Your footsteps remain soundless, as if the floor absorbs intention itself. You feel calm, curious but calm. This aisle feels different, not dangerous, just quieter, heavier with meaning. The shelves here hold books that have been read many times, their spines smooth from attention. You notice that some pages carry markings that repeat. Not mistakes exactly, more like familiar bends in the ink. You breathe in slowly, grounding yourself in the warmth of the room. You breathe out, letting the silence support you. This is where small typos live. Not dramatic ones, not torn pages or missing chapters, just tiny shifts that appear in important sentences. You pause beside a shelf and open a book that feels heavier than the others. The story begins smoothly, flowing as expected. But then, gently, you sense it leaning. The meaning is still there, just slightly altered. Disease, you realize, often begins this way, not as a sudden invasion, but as a sentence that slowly changes its tone. The librarian appears beside you, unannounced but welcome. They do not point or correct. They simply stand with you, reading. A small typo repeats across copies of this book. Not loud, persistent. Each time the story is copied, the same word carries the same blur. Over time, that blur becomes part of the narrative. You feel no fear as this settles in, only understanding. Diseases are not punishments. They are misunderstandings that accumulate quietly. You close the book and slide it back into place. It does not feel rejected. It belongs here too. Most stories never drift this way. You sense that clearly. The library is filled with books that remain beautifully readable despite countless copies. Variation moves through them like accent rather than error. Your body carries thousands of small differences that never cause harm. They rest quietly, like alternate spellings that still sound the same when read aloud. You smile at that thought. Language has always been flexible. The librarian moves ahead, and you follow at a relaxed distance. No urgency pulls you forward. They stop at another shelf and open a book to a familiar page. The same word appears altered again. The repetition is gentle but undeniable. Here the story leans a little more. Not enough to collapse. Enough to notice. This is how some illnesses take shape. Slowly, silently. Long before symptoms speak, the story has already shifted. You feel grounded knowing this process takes time. Nothing here happens suddenly. The librarian's role becomes clearer now. They do not erase the story. They notice patterns. CRISPR exists here as awareness before action, as recognition before change. You breathe in, steady and full. You breathe out, releasing any tension that tries to form. There is something almost comforting about the predictability of repetition. Once a word changes, it tends to change the same way again. Stories are consistent even when they drift. That consistency is what makes gentle correction possible. The librarian traces the altered sentence with a fingertip, slowly. They are not judging the word. They are understanding its context. You realize that not every typo requires attention. Only the ones that gradually reshape meaning. Most ink blurs are harmless. They pass through generations unnoticed, doing no damage at all. You feel relief settle into your chest. Your body is not a fragile manuscript. It is resilient, forgiving. The hum of the library deepens, like night air settling around a building. You feel held by it. A thought drifts through you, light and oddly reassuring. Even the best editors miss things sometimes. And that is okay. The librarian smiles faintly, as if sharing the thought. They close the book but leave their hand resting on the cover. Not correcting yet, just present. You understand now that awareness itself is powerful. That noticing a drifting story is the first act of care. Disease is not framed here as an enemy to fight. It is a story that has slowly leaned away from clarity. That framing feels kinder, more honest. You move farther down the aisle, noticing how few books show this kind of repetition. Most remain steady, their meanings intact. You are surrounded by evidence of stability. The librarian stops again, this time pausing longer. Their hand hovers above a page. Not touching, just waiting. This hovering feels important. Like a breath held gently, not tensely. CRISPR waits here too. Not eager, not intrusive. It waits for understanding to complete itself. You feel your shoulders soften. Your jaw relaxes. Nothing is demanded of you. Nothing is urgent. The silence deepens, and it does not feel empty. It feels full of patience. You sense that soon careful attention may turn into careful action. But not yet. For now, it is enough to notice. Enough to understand how small typos can slowly shape heavy stories. You take one more slow breath, feeling the warmth of the light around you. The librarian's hand remains hovering, ready but unhurried, as the library holds this moment of awareness, and you drift gently toward the quiet possibility of what comes next. You remain in the library, and time feels different here. Not slower exactly, deeper. The silence carries weight, but not heaviness. It feels like accumulated patience, stored gently in the walls. You breathe in, imagining the age of the shelves. You breathe out, releasing into continuity. The librarian gestures toward a section you have not yet explored. The shelves here look older somehow. They're wood darker, their edges softened by countless years of quiet use. The light changes too, warmer, like late afternoon sun filtered through dust and memory. This is the oldest part of the library. You step closer, and the hum shifts in tone, lower and steadier. You sense stories that predate language as you know it. Stories that began long before names were needed. These shelves belong to bacteria. Not the bacteria of alarm or illness, but the bacteria of endurance. Ancient readers, survivors. They have lived on Earth longer than forests, longer than bones, longer than eyes that could see. And all this time they have been reading too. Their books are small but precise. Their stories are copied quickly, constantly, because survival depends on remembering. You learn gently that bacteria face constant threats. Viruses drift through their world like invasive paragraphs, trying to overwrite meaning. And so, bacteria learned to notice. They learned to mark passages that once caused harm. Not with panic, with memory. Inside their tiny libraries, they kept fragments of dangerous text. Short excerpts, reminders, not to dwell on fear, but to recognize it if it returned. This is where CRISPR begins. Not as a tool, but as a habit of attention. The librarian kneels beside one of these ancient shelves. Reverent. They do not pretend to have authored this system. They study it. CRISPR is borrowed wisdom, learned by watching life protect itself quietly. You feel something soften inside you at that realization. Science here is not conquest. It is listening. Bacteria do not argue with invading stories. They simply compare. If a match appears, they respond calmly, precisely, without disturbing the rest of the text. You notice how gentle that is, how contained. The librarian traces an invisible line in the air, showing how recognition leads to action only when necessary. Never before, never after. You breathe in slowly, grounding yourself in the steadiness of this ancient rhythm. You breathe out, feeling trust settle. CRISPR, you realize, is memory turned into care. Over time, humans noticed this pattern. Not suddenly, not triumphantly. They observed. They waited. They reread nature's notes again and again. Eventually, they understood that this quiet bacterial system could be adapted. Not forced. Adapted. The librarian rises slowly now, carrying that understanding with humility. They are not an inventor claiming credit. They are a translator. You feel reassured knowing CRISPR does not come from ambition alone. It comes from respect for what already works. The shelves seem to stretch further than before, revealing layer upon layer of borrowed wisdom. Life teaching life how to persist. There is something faintly amusing in realizing that some of the most advanced tools come from the smallest teachers. If bacteria could smile, they might do so modestly. Very modestly. The librarian shares that CRISPR's power lies in recognition, not force. It remembers specific sequences. It waits. Only when the same danger appears does it act. That restraint feels important, comforting. You notice how this mirrors the earlier chapters. Reading, rereading, noticing repetition. Everything connects. You sit on the floor between shelves, the wood warm beneath you. The library does not mind. You sense that this ancient system values accuracy over speed, specificity over drama. It does not rewrite whole books. It addresses single passages. You let that idea rest inside you. How little needs to change to protect a story. The librarian opens a book from this section and shows you its simplicity. Short entries, clear markers, memory without excess. This is not fear-based defense. It is familiarity-based recognition. You feel calm knowing that CRISPR's roots are peaceful, observational, earned. As the librarian closes the book, you sense how this ancient patience carries forward into modern science, into careful trials, into hesitation where hesitation belongs. The light shifts again, slightly brighter now, as if acknowledging understanding. You breathe in, feeling the age of the shelves. You breathe out, feeling the calm of continuity. The librarian steps aside, allowing you one last look down the ancient aisle. Feels endless, but not overwhelming. You stand slowly, aware that this borrowed wisdom now travels with you. That CRISPR is not an interruption of life's story. It is a footnote written by life itself. The hum of the library deepens, resonant and steady. The shelves seem to lean closer, as if sharing their age with you. You feel trust growing. Not excitement, trust. As you turn toward the next aisle, the librarian follows at an unhurried pace. The light adjusts. The air remains warm. Somewhere ahead, attention will narrow. From ancient memory to precise focus. But for now, you rest inside the long patience of living systems, carrying borrowed wisdom forward, as the library breathes with you, preparing quietly for the next careful understanding. You continue walking through the library, and the air feels calm, as if acknowledging your presence. The hum of distant shelves follows your movement, rhythmic and steady. You breathe in, noticing the warm glow along the wooden aisles. You breathe out, letting your shoulders relax. The librarian moves slowly ahead, opening a book and resting their fingers on a single line. You see that line is clear, surrounded by other sentences that flow effortlessly. Nothing is hurried. Nothing is harsh. This is where CRISPR begins to appear in your imagination. Not as a machine, not as a loud instrument, but as careful attention. The system is precise. It does not cut recklessly. It does not erase indiscriminately. It reads first. You watch as the librarian traces a single word with their fingertip, gently aligning it with the lines above and below. The motion is slow, deliberate, full of awareness. It is like watching someone highlight a phrase in your favorite story, not to change it recklessly, but to ensure meaning remains clear. Inhale slowly, feeling the motion of tracing. Exhale, letting it settle. CRISPR works in much the same way. It finds one specific gene, one particular passage in the book of life. Pauses. Considers context. Nothing else is disturbed. The surrounding sentences, the paragraphs, the chapters remain untouched. Integrity is preserved. You imagine the tiniest fingers, almost invisible, moving along the text. Not cutting, not forcing, just aligning and observing. A faint smile passes over your lips, thinking how something so microscopic can be so careful, so meticulous, so respectful. The librarian opens another book, showing how the same careful tracing can occur in many places at once. Each action is independent yet coordinated by understanding. The library is alive with awareness, not chaos. You notice how the warm light reflects off the shelves, softening shadows around the fingertips. You sense calm in precision, not tension, not pressure. Breath in, tracing the line. Breath out, releasing the need to control. This is the core of CRISPR. Recognition before action. Alignment before correction. You move closer, noticing details you did not see before. A faint shimmer in the pages. A tiny pause in the rhythm of the text. Pattern waiting to be acknowledged. The librarian's fingers hover above the page for a moment. No urgency, just observation. Sometimes even the most careful attention requires patience. A second glance. A small adjustment. A deep understanding of context. You feel your own heartbeat slow in response. The library mirrors your calm. This gentle search is not linear. It loops and returns, checking passages again, ensuring the correct alignment. Mistakes are unlikely not because of control but because of care. You breathe in, imagining tiny molecular readers moving along DNA with the same patience. You breathe out, feeling a resonance in your chest. The librarian pauses, letting light fall evenly across the page. Feels intentional, necessary. CRISPR does not rush. It does not panic. It waits until the target is fully recognized. You sense that this is why correction feels so gentle. There is no sudden intrusion, no loud interruption of the story. You begin to notice the rhythm of the process. Recognition, alignment, adjustment, pause, observation, completion. It repeats quietly across countless cells, but each instance is independent, careful, deliberate. The librarian opens another book nearby. The action is so soft it feels almost like a whisper. Even the shadows bend gently around the pages, like air brushing past fingertips. You smile again at the thought that such tiny precision can exist within something so vast. That care can happen at this scale without alarm or fuss. The story here is not of force, but of attentiveness. The smallest reader notices the smallest detail. The system responds only where necessary. You walk slowly down the aisle, feeling the hum of the library settle into your body. It is rhythmic, almost like your own breathing. Inhale, align. Exhale, release. The librarian points to a word, just slightly smudged. It does not call attention. It does not demand action. It simply invites understanding. CRISPR, you feel, is exactly this. Not an intruder, but a gentle guide. A reminder that even the tiniest details can be cared for. You notice the ambient warmth of the library, how it seems to cradle every shelf. The golden light bends softly along the edges of books, illuminating text without glare. You imagine that this is the environment in which attention thrives. A micro-repetition crosses your mind, almost humorous. Tiny readers, tiny fingers, tiny lights, all moving so deliberately, all accomplishing so much with grace. The librarian demonstrates another example. One line is traced, a word adjusted. Nothing else shifts. The story remains whole. You feel reassured. Change is not disruptive here. Correction is an act of care, not control. Breath in, tracing the line. Breath out, letting the correction settle gently into the narrative. CRISPR in living cells mirrors this attention. It finds what matters. It responds. And then it waits. You sit on the warm floor, watching shadows move along the shelves. The librarian pauses nearby, hands resting lightly on another book. No one rushes. No one worries. The library itself seems to breathe with you. Inhale, feeling alignment. Exhale, feeling the surrounding text remain safe. You realize that precision is also patience. That correction is also observation. That understanding precedes intervention. A faint chuckle escapes you, imagining how proud the librarian would be if they could feel satisfaction at this measured care. Tiny, almost imperceptible pride. The books hum with continuity. Even the altered words, once corrected, fit seamlessly into the narrative. You rise slowly, sensing the library stretching outward, deeper and wider than before. The librarian follows, hand hovering, ensuring that light touches each page as it needs. You feel the connection to earlier chapters, the quiet reading, the patient noticing, the recognition of repetition. Everything builds gently. Everything flows. The process is slow, almost meditative. You breathe in. You breathe out. You sense that understanding precedes everything. Before disease, before correction, before any action, there is awareness. The librarian closes a book softly, placing it back in its warm place. You feel the gentle weight of presence, of observation. No urgency, no alarm. CRISPR's path is now clear in your mind. Recognition first, precision second, care always. You take a final slow breath in. The light around you softens. The shelves stretch onward. A quiet stillness fills the aisle. Not empty, not final, just waiting. Waiting for the next careful understanding to arrive. Waiting for you to follow. And as your shoulders relax completely, the warm hum of the library carries you softly into the next aisle, where identity and ethics, restraint and possibility, await your gentle attention. You follow the quiet aisle into a section of the library that feels expansive yet intimate. The shelves are taller here, their tops fading into a soft haze of golden light. You breathe in slowly, feeling the warmth of the air brushing against your skin. You breathe out, letting your body settle fully into the rhythm of the library. The librarian moves beside you, hands resting lightly on a stack of books. Their pace is unhurried. Their presence is steady. You notice that these books seem different, not in content, but in the care with which they are preserved. The pages feel softer, the margins wider, as though they were written with restraint in mind. This is the section of editing without erasing, a place where correction happens, but identity remains. You sit on a low bench that appears, as if summoned, just for you. The wood is warm beneath you. The light glows softly across the page of a book the librarian opens. You lean slightly forward, curious but calm. CRISPR's role here becomes clear. It does not rewrite entire stories. It does not invent new sentences. It finds the words that need subtle adjustment and nudges them back into alignment. You feel a gentle reassurance settle in your chest. This is not a forceful act, not an overwriting of self. It is precision guided by understanding. The librarian traces a word, then pauses. They do not move hastily. They simply ensure that the meaning remains intact. You breathe in, letting your awareness follow the tracing. You breathe out, releasing tension that may have lingered. This process is a quiet promise, a whisper from biology itself, that your story, your essence, remains whole. You imagine each cell as a page. Every paragraph, every sentence carefully preserved. Even when a tiny error appears, it is addressed without disrupting the overall narrative. Ethical boundaries exist here like wide margins. They provide space for correction without risking the integrity of the story. You sense the care built into these margins. They guide action without dictating it. The librarian gestures toward a particularly delicate book. The pages are filled with dense, intricate lines. One sentence curves slightly out of alignment, a tiny shift that might, over time, affect the story's flow. The librarian does not panic. They simply pause, consider, and adjust the line with a fingertip. No more, no less. You feel the rhythm of this process echo in your own chest. Inhale, noticing care. Exhale, releasing fear. CRISPR works the same way. It does not act impulsively. It acts only where precision is necessary. You sense how deeply reassuring this is. The library, the librarian, your own body, all are aligned in this gentle principle. You lean closer to the book. The sentences seem to breathe with you. Lines that were slightly skewed now align softly, effortlessly. Everything remains recognizable, familiar. The librarian moves to another shelf, opening a book with a similar small imperfection. A single word requires attention. The surrounding context is preserved. The narrative is uninterrupted. You notice a faint warmth spreading through your hands. It is almost like a hum, subtle and soothing, a reminder that care does not need force, that precision need not be harsh. A thought drifts through you, lightly humorous. Even the smallest readers, yourselves, perhaps tiny librarians of their own, are meticulous. They may frown if the punctuation is off, but never impatiently. You breathe in again, tracing the metaphor. You breathe out, letting reassurance settle deeper. The librarian demonstrates one more subtle correction. A word is nudged back into place. No one else notices. No pages fall. No meaning is lost. This is the quiet power of editing without erasing. CRISPR in living cells mirrors this process. Recognition first. Precision second. Identity preserved always. You feel a sense of gratitude rising. Not for accomplishment. Not for triumph. For attentiveness. For restraint. The warm glow around the shelves emphasizes the care in every movement. Shadows stretch gently across the floor. Light bends softly around the open pages. You sense that correction without erasure is a principle as much as a technique. It exists not to dominate, but to serve. A gentle micro-repetition comes to mind, lightly amusing. Trace, pause, adjust, pause, trace again. You imagine this rhythm echoing within your own cells, a slow, steady pulse of care. The librarian opens another book. The text flows beautifully, mostly undisturbed. A single smudge appears in a sentence. Attention hovers. Correction occurs. The flow continues. You feel that this is possible in your own body as well. That your essence, your identity, your story can remain intact even when adjustments are made. Breath in, feeling stability. Breath out, feeling integration. This aisle of the library teaches patience as much as skill. The act of correction is never hurried, never harsh. You sense that the ethical boundaries around CRISPR mirror these margins. They are wide. They are considered. They protect what matters. The librarian moves slowly to another shelf, and the air shifts slightly as if acknowledging care. The books seem to lean closer, sharing their age, their wisdom. You feel trust deepen within you. CRISPR does not erase individuality. Preserves what is essential. It adjusts what is gently misaligned. It honors the story as a whole. You sit again on the warm bench, noticing the repetition of these lessons across shelves. Recognition, alignment, gentle adjustment, patience, observation. You breathe in, feeling the rhythm align with your heartbeat. You breathe out, letting the calm settle fully. A faint smile crosses your lips. Even the smallest corrections can be elegant. Even the tiniest changes can honor the original voice. The librarian closes a book carefully, letting it rest in its familiar place. No finality, no abrupt conclusion, just the continuation of attentive care. You sense the connection to previous chapters, cells rereading themselves, small typos gently corrected, borrowed wisdom from bacteria guiding subtle alignment. Everything flows together. The warmth of the shelves seems to follow you as you rise. You stretch lightly, feeling the air move across your arms. The hum of the library rises and falls like a slow tide. You understand that identity and correction can coexist. That care can be precise. That change need not disrupt what already works. CRISPR's role, you see, is not to overwrite but to honor, to adjust, to preserve, to recognize continuity. The librarian steps back, hands resting lightly on the shelves. They do not hurry you forward. They do not close the aisle. They simply allow the lesson of restraint to settle around you. Breath in, feeling balance. Breath out, feeling preservation. You notice how small adjustments ripple outward, unnoticed but meaningful. Cells, paragraphs, sentences, life itself, all capable of subtle alignment. A faint chuckle drifts through you, imagining the tiniest fingers tracing letters, pausing, adjusting, never impatient. Their work is precise. Their work is quiet. Their work is effective. The shelves stretch onward, inviting you to continue. The light glows softly, illuminating the next aisle. The air hums with steady patience. You feel grounded, not rushed, not anxious, only aware of the gentle rhythm of care. And as you rise, the librarian closes the book near you, leaving it in its place. No erasure, no heavy hand, just attention. You step forward, ready to follow, carrying the quiet lesson. Editing does not erase. Care does not disrupt. Precision honors continuity. And as the warm light bends softly over the shelves, you drift toward the next aisle, where prevention waits, ready to be explored with the same gentle mindfulness. You follow the librarian into a part of the library that feels brighter, though the light remains soft and warm. Shelves here stretch high, and the glow seems to hover just above the topmost spines. You breathe in slowly, sensing the early warmth of morning spreading across the aisle. You breathe out, allowing your body to settle further into the quiet rhythm of the library. The shelves here hold books that are unopened or only partially read. They are stories waiting to be understood fully, lines yet untouched by attentive fingers. You sense the potential within them, as if the narrative itself holds a quiet promise. This is where prevention begins. CRISPR, in this space, does not rush. It does not wait for the story to falter or for disease to speak aloud. It watches. It notices. Prepares. The librarian gestures toward a book resting on a lower shelf. Its pages appear unremarkable at first glance. But as you lean closer, you see that a tiny phrase is slightly misaligned. A blur that could, in time, drift the story into confusion. The librarian does not react with alarm. They simply trace the line with gentle fingers, noticing its form and relation to the surrounding sentences. Inhale slowly, letting attention settle. Exhale, releasing tension that might arise. You sense that prevention is not forceful. It is observation guided by understanding. A small nudge before anything grows louder. Disease, you realize, often speaks long after the story has drifted. Symptoms appear as echoes of subtle misalignments. CRISPR's work, then, is like a careful footnote, a quiet intervention that preserves meaning before confusion spreads. The librarian opens another book nearby. One word leans differently than intended. Again, there is no rush, no dramatic motion. The fingertip hovers, reads, and gently realigns. You feel reassured by the patience of this system. Change is subtle. Correction is quiet. The story is intact. You move down the aisle slowly, feeling the hum of the library echo in your chest. It is rhythmic like a gentle tide of air, in and out, in and out. Cells in your body perform similar acts, you realize. They detect misalignment, recognize subtle changes, and act before damage spreads. Not out of fear, not out of urgency, but out of natural attentiveness. The librarian pauses beside a particularly delicate book. Its spine curves slightly, as though bending under the weight of time. They do not straighten it forcefully. Instead, they adjust gently, ensuring the pages remain aligned, the story flowing uninterrupted. You breathe in, feeling steadiness. You breathe out, letting trust deepen. CRISPR in living cells mirrors this principle. It identifies what matters most. It adjusts only what is necessary, and then it waits. You feel a warmth spread from your chest, as though the library itself is a cocoon of calm. Every book, every shelf, every gentle correction contributes to this quiet harmony. The librarian moves slowly along the aisle, tracing lines, observing, but never forcing. There is no hurry, no judgment, only care. A thought drifts through you, faintly humorous. Even if the tiniest reader, a molecular editor, wore glasses, it would likely squint patiently at each line. Very small spectacles, very gentle concern. The books themselves seem to breathe softly around you. Inhale, pause, exhale, continue. The rhythm is almost imperceptible, but undeniably present. You notice how subtle interventions prevent cascading confusion. A tiny misalignment corrected early avoids the need for larger corrections later. This is kindness built into biology. The librarian demonstrates another example. A phrase repeated across multiple copies of a book carries a small variation. The fingers hover, the alignment is restored, and the repetition continues quietly, harmoniously. You feel grounded in this rhythm. The library itself, the librarian, and your own cells seem connected in purpose. Prevention is not imposition. It is awareness. It is care. You walk along a narrow aisle, and light falls softly on the pages beside you. Each book glows, its text steady, even where slight imperfections appear. Everything seems to whisper, attention is enough. Observation is power. Subtlety is sufficient. Breath in, noticing the soft glow of the pages. Breath out, letting your body feel aligned. You realize that disease does not demand immediate confrontation. It often begins as whispers, subtle misreads that go unnoticed. CRISPR's power lies in responding while silence still reigns. Before loud symptoms, before alarm, before worry, the librarian stops at a particularly tall shelf, reaching to touch a book whose topmost page is partially open. The line that wavers there could one day matter. Yet correction occurs without fanfare, without urgency. Just a fingertip, a pause, a gentle nudge. You feel a sense of trust bloom in your chest. This is not about control. This is about stewardship, guiding the story without dictating the narrative. You sit on a bench nearby, feeling the warmth seep into your legs. The hum of the library resonates softly in your bones. Your heartbeat begins to match it, slow and steady. CRISPR's potential is seen clearly here. In each cell, in each page of life story, it may act early. Before illness speaks aloud. Before confusion spreads. Corrects gently, quietly, and then rests. You imagine countless cells performing this work, a silent network of readers. Each one attentive, each one precise, each one calm. The librarian moves forward, letting light fall evenly across another open book. You notice the subtle rhythm of their gestures. Inhale, pause. Exhale, release. Trace, align, pause. The books seem to respond, bending gently under the finger's guidance, but remaining resilient. The story is preserved, meaning intact, continuity maintained. You feel a deep reassurance, not because problems never arise, but because the systems in place respond with care. Subtlety, observation, patience. The warm hum of the library deepens, like a tide flowing slowly across distant shores. Your chest rises with it, falls with it. You notice again the faint humor of these tiny interventions. Even the smallest molecular readers act like diligent librarians. Focused, intent, composed. You feel yourself breathing in alignment with their quiet precision. Breath in, noticing subtle correction. Breath out, releasing tension, fear, or worry. You move along another aisle, observing books that remain unopened. They are not neglected. They are waiting for attention at the right moment, for guidance if needed. CRISPR acts similarly, not indiscriminately, not disruptively. Only when recognition indicates gentle correction is required. You lean lightly against a shelf, feeling warmth through your arms. The quiet hum of the library seems to enter your skin. You sense a protective rhythm, a gentle assurance that small misalignments can be addressed before they disturb the story. The librarian pauses again, hand hovering above an open page. No sudden movement, no abrupt change, only calm observation. The library itself seems to inhale and exhale with you, a collective rhythm of care. The books settle softly on the shelves, each holding their narrative, their story intact. Even tiny changes are framed by continuity, preserving identity, maintaining the essence of life's text. You feel a wave of serenity rise. Prevention here is kindness, not control. Subtle, unobtrusive, patient. You notice the light shift gently, as if dawn is spreading across distant pages. It illuminates unopened books, promising quiet guidance and steady protection. You breathe in, sensing continuity. You breathe out, sensing trust. The librarian steps back, allowing the aisle to feel vast and safe. Your eyes wander across shelves filled with stories that are mostly intact, yet subtly corrected where necessary. You sense that CRISPR's potential lies not in immediacy, not in spectacle, but in quiet diligence. In noticing, in waiting, in acting gently when the moment is right. The hum of the library continues, steady and full. Your own body seems to mirror it. Inhale, steady. Exhale, calm. You rise slowly from the bench, feeling lightness in your chest. The librarian follows, leaving the books aligned and the pages undisturbed. The aisle stretches onward, open and inviting. Somewhere ahead, other lessons await. Therapy and practice, real-world applications, limits and reflection. But for now, you rest in the quiet potential of early correction, of subtle guidance, of disease treated before it speaks. The dawn spreads across unopened pages. The library breathes with you, and you move gently forward, carrying awareness, care, and calm into the next aisle of understanding. You continue down the library aisle, the warm glow brushing against your shoulders. The shelves feel sturdier here, filled with books whose pages have already been touched by careful hands. You breathe in slowly, noticing the soft fragrance of old wood and gentle ink. You breathe out, allowing your body to sink into the rhythm of the quiet library. The librarian moves ahead, opening a book with a calm, deliberate motion. This section is different from the ones you have seen before. These books are not about theory or potential. They contain actions already underway, real therapies quietly unfolding. You lean forward, curious but unhurried, and watch the librarian trace a line on the page. Not with a pen or eraser, but with a fingertip that seems to guide the words toward clarity. Each movement is gentle, deliberate, as if acknowledging the history of the story while shaping its next moment. CRISPR, you understand, functions similarly. In living cells, it corrects certain passages of DNA subtly, thoughtfully. The adjustment is precise, leaving the surrounding text undisturbed. You sense the care embedded in every correction. There is no urgency, no dramatics, just observation, recognition, and gentle guidance. A thought flits through your mind, softly humorous. Even in the smallest therapy, the tiniest molecular librarian acts with meticulous patience, tracing sentences with invisible fingers, pausing to ensure each word aligns perfectly. A quiet smile rises, almost involuntarily. The librarian demonstrates another example. One page carries a subtle misalignment, something that might eventually interfere with the flow of the story. The fingers hover, then nudge the text, returning it to its proper place. The correction is seamless, almost imperceptible, yet profoundly effective. You breathe in, noticing the alignment. You breathe out, letting assurance settle in your chest. Each book you pass holds a similar quiet activity. Therapies are underway, like small, careful revisions being made with infinite patience. Some address inherited conditions, others fine-tune delicate passages that have drifted over time. All proceed with slow, deliberate attention. You move along the aisle, absorbing the rhythm. The librarian steps lightly between the shelves, each movement echoing in the soft hum of the library. No step is rushed. No page is forced. You notice how the environment itself supports precision. The light falls evenly on the pages. Shadows bend softly around the words. The hum vibrates gently through the air, through your chest, like a subtle metronome for careful action. A micro-repetition enters your mind, faintly humorous. Trace, pause, adjust, pause, trace again. The tiny cycle seems to echo in your body, settling your breathing into a slow, steady cadence. The librarian opens another book, showing a therapy that has already taken root. A misaligned sentence has been adjusted. The surrounding pages remain intact. The story continues as if nothing had shifted at all, yet a subtle improvement now exists. You feel reassurance flow through you. Even the most delicate adjustments do not disrupt the greater narrative. Care and precision coexist. The librarian stamps a page gently, the action deliberate but unhurried. It is a mark of patience, an acknowledgement of work completed thoughtfully, not rushed, not forced. You sense that CRISPR therapies, like the librarian's careful stamp, proceed in the same spirit. Every correction is measured, every adjustment considered, every intervention respectful of the whole story. You breathe in, noticing the subtle warmth of the aisle. You breathe out, letting the calm deepen. Real therapies, you realize, are not about grand gestures. They are small, careful adjustments informed by repetition, by observation, by understanding. They are about integrity, continuity, and attention. The librarian moves along, opening another book that contains a more complex passage. The misalignment here is not a single word, but a small cluster of sentences. Still, the response is measured. Slow tracing, gentle nudging, subtle realignment. No disturbance beyond what is necessary. You smile faintly, imagining the molecular machinery in your own body performing similar actions. Tiny readers, attentive, careful, patient. Not loud, not dramatic, but profoundly effective. The shelves seem to vibrate softly with accumulated care. Every adjustment, every trace, every pause contributes to the quiet, ongoing stability of the library. You lean slightly against a warm shelf, feeling a sense of trust deepen. This is how change can occur without alarm. How correction can happen without disruption. How precision can be gentle and effective at once. The librarian pauses to show you a particularly delicate passage. The line curves almost imperceptibly. They trace it carefully, following the natural flow, ensuring that meaning remains intact. The adjustment is so subtle it might go unnoticed by any reader who did not know to look. You breathe in, noticing the precision. You breathe out, letting the calm settle fully. You recognize the pattern now. Each therapy, each correction, each attentive movement is part of a larger rhythm. Observation, recognition, gentle alignment, a patience. Repeat, repeat, repeat. The librarian moves ahead, leaving small gaps between books where corrections have been completed. The pages seem lighter for the attention they have received, the text flowing more smoothly. You feel an internal warmth, a soft resonance of trust. This is the rhythm of care, repeated across countless cells, countless passages, countless moments. You notice how even the smallest misalignments are approached with restraint. No excess force, no overreach, just gentle, deliberate action. The library hums with this quiet diligence. It is almost a voice, soft and meditative, telling you that correction does not need urgency, that therapy can be quiet, careful, and profoundly effective. You sit briefly on a bench, feeling the warm wood beneath your hands. The librarian moves along another shelf, tracing lines, adjusting small shifts, ensuring meaning remains intact. No dramatic gestures, no haste. The pattern repeats, soft and steady. A subtle correction here, a gentle nudge there. Every adjustment deliberate, every movement considered. You notice the light bending gently over the books, highlighting subtle details without harsh contrast. Even the shadows seem to align, accommodating the calm rhythm of attentive correction. The librarian pauses at a particularly intricate passage, where multiple sentences curve in alignment. Their fingers hover, tracing slowly, adjusting, pausing, reading again. The correction is seamless, almost imperceptible, yet the improvement is real. You breathe in, feeling alignment. You breathe out, feeling calm certainty. You notice again the faint humor in the tiny, attentive movements. Even if the smallest librarians were capable of sighing, they would do so softly, without disruption, proud of careful work completed. The shelves stretch endlessly, each book holding its corrected, stabilized story. Even the tiniest changes ripple quietly, subtly, with profound effect. You feel a sense of reassurance, almost like a soft glow, filling your chest. Real therapies can exist, quietly, gently, effectively, The librarian steps back, leaving the books aligned, the pages untouched beyond what is necessary. The aisle feels full of trust, of care, of patient action that honors the story's integrity. You rise slowly, sensing the rhythm of the library echo within your own body. Inhale, observation. Exhale, adjustment. The hum continues softly, carrying you forward. You glance down the next aisle, aware that further lessons await, risks, limits, and the wisdom of moving slowly. But for now, you rest in the quiet, deliberate flow of real therapies taking shape, knowing that gentle, precise care is not only possible but effective. The library breathes with you, the shelves glow softly, and you drift gently onward, carrying the calm understanding that science can act quietly, steadily, and wisely, guiding stories and cells toward alignment before alarm ever arises. You follow the library aisle as the light softens, falling more evenly across the shelves. There is a calm weight here, not heavy, but deliberate. You breathe in slowly, noticing the subtle hum of air moving past tall books. You breathe out, letting your body settle further into the rhythm of observation. The librarian moves quietly, opening a book with care. The pages are familiar, yet you notice slight irregularities. Small notes in the margins. Tiny annotations reminding readers to pause, reread, and consider. This is the space of caution, of wisdom, of restraint. CRISPR, you sense, has immense potential, but it also carries responsibility. Mistakes are possible, not inevitable, but worthy of gentle attention. You notice a page with a faintly misaligned sentence. The librarian does not hurry. Their fingers hover, tracing the line, reading, rereading. They consider the context, the surrounding text, the meaning as a whole. Inhale slowly, observing. Exhale, allowing calm reflection. Sometimes, corrections do not proceed smoothly. Even careful tracing may affect adjacent lines. In living cells, these off-target effects are rare but possible. Here, in the library, they appear as tiny smudges, reminders to move thoughtfully. You sense that science itself is like this aisle. It is not conquest. It is conversation. A careful dialogue between observation, experimentation, and patience. The librarian shows another book, gently flipping the pages. Some passages are delicate, layered, intertwined. Adjusting one sentence might affect another. The fingers hover, adjusting slightly, pausing, reading again. You feel reassurance. Every movement is deliberate. Every pause intentional. No action is forced. Breath in, noticing precision. Breath out, releasing urgency. You imagine your own cells performing similar work. Careful, attentive, measuring each step. Recognition precedes action. Observation guides response. The library itself seems to expand around you, making space for these subtle acts. The shelves lean softly, their wood warm, the pages glowing in gentle light. You sense patience here as a principle, a rhythm, a guiding force. Ethical questions arise naturally. Should every misalignment be corrected? Should some errors remain as part of the story? The librarian does not answer with certainty. They leave the margins open, inviting reflection, inviting consideration. You breathe in, sensing responsibility. You breathe out, trusting deliberation. CRISPR therapies, like the librarian's careful tracing, require restraint. Not every word is changed immediately. Not every line receives intervention. The wisdom of going slowly preserves meaning, ensures continuity, and honors the story's integrity. The librarian pauses at a particularly complex page. Several lines intertwine, one sentence affecting another in subtle ways. The fingers hover. They trace. They pause. They read again. Even the smallest movement carries weight. Every action is balanced by observation, thought, and patience. You notice how the library hums in response. The sound is steady, calm, reinforcing the principle of careful deliberation. There is no alarm, no drama, only attentive presence. A faint smile crosses your lips, softly amused by the idea of tiny molecular readers performing similar cautious work within your body. Each pause, each adjustment, each recognition of context mirrors this very scene. The librarian opens another book. Footnotes, marginal notes, gentle reminders. To reread, to consider, to measure. This is not hesitation born of fear. It is hesitation born of understanding. Breath in, feeling measured awareness. Breath out, letting reassurance settle deeply. CRISPR has limits. Even with precision, some passages are difficult to adjust without affecting surrounding lines. Some edits may never be fully predictable. Some consequences may only emerge over time. You feel comforted knowing this is acknowledged, not ignored. The library does not hide these truths. It lays them gently before you as guidance, not threat. The librarian steps back, leaving the book open. Their hands hover over the next volume, not touching, not forcing. The space itself seems to honor restraint. Action only when necessary. Intervention only when thoughtful. You notice the pattern of repeated, calm observation. Trace, pause, observe, decide, adjust only when certain. Even subtle errors in this space are approached with deliberation. The quiet hum of the library reinforces patience. The light bends gently across the pages, softening focus without reducing clarity. You sit on a warm bench nearby. The wood beneath you feels steady, grounding. Your breath aligns with the rhythm of the library. Inhale, deliberate observation. Exhale, measured action. You recognize that caution does not diminish capability. It strengthens it. It ensures that corrections honor continuity, identity, and meaning. The librarian moves along, fingers hovering over books as if anticipating, yet never pressing. Even the tiniest pages are treated with respect. No urgency, no compulsion. You imagine cells performing similar acts, guided by CRISPR. Recognition first, alignment second, care and pause always. A faint humor drifts through your mind. Tiny fingers, small corrections, quiet, meticulous attention. Even the smallest actors are dignified in their precision. You feel yourself breathing with this rhythm. Your chest rises slowly, falls gently. Inhale, observe. Exhale, trust. The librarian pauses at a particularly delicate passage. Several sentences intertwine, and the meaning could be affected by even a subtle shift. The fingers hover. Trace. Pause. Consider. You sense how deeply thoughtful this is. The library itself reinforces patience. The story is valued. Its integrity honored. You lean slightly against the shelves, feeling their warmth. The quiet hum resonates in your bones. You notice how subtle corrections ripple outward, unnoticed but meaningful. The librarian steps back. Books remain open, pages untouched beyond what is necessary. This is the wisdom of going slowly, not inaction, not indecision, but deliberate, thoughtful, careful action. You feel calm, grounded, reassured. CRISPR does not act impulsively. Ethics guide intervention. Observation guides timing. Patience guides understanding. The air hums softly, golden light pooling across pages. Even the smallest misalignments are addressed thoughtfully, gently, without harm. You breathe in, sensing awareness. You breathe out, feeling calm certainty. The librarian steps aside, letting the aisle remain open, full of quiet possibility. The pages shimmer faintly in the warm light, aligned, preserved, yet still alive with potential. You sense the connection to all previous lessons. Recognition before action. Patience before correction. Deliberation before movement. All woven together. A rhythm of careful care. A dance of attentive precision. You rise slowly, feeling the weight of understanding settle in your chest. The aisle stretches ahead, wide and calm. The librarian follows, leaving space, leaving trust, leaving observation. Somewhere beyond, new chapters await, futures imagined, therapies realized, rest and reflection. But for now, you sit in the wisdom of slow action, confident that restraint is a strength, that observation is sufficient, and that gentle patience can guide even the most delicate corrections. The shelves hum softly, light bends gently, and you drift forward, breathing steadily, carrying the wisdom of caution and care into the next chapter of understanding. You follow the library aisle as it widens, the soft light deepening into golden warmth. The shelves feel endless, stretching beyond sight, filled with countless volumes, many familiar, many yet unopened. You breathe in slowly, letting the gentle scent of parchment and wormwood fill your lungs. You breathe out, feeling the calm settle deeply into your chest, like the slow rise and fall of a tide. The librarian walks beside you, guiding without words. Their presence is steady, unhurried, a quiet anchor as you take in this vast expanse. Here, the metaphor of reading expands. It is no longer one aisle, one book, one story. It is a network, a shared reading, many hands, many eyes, each attuned to the delicate balance of story and correction. CRISPR's future feels like this space, not isolated, not commanding, but quietly integrated. Therapies unfold gently, silently, like tiny fingers tracing the lines of life, correcting where needed, preserving what matters most. The work is shared, distributed, observed. You notice several librarians moving among the aisles, each attending to a different set of books. Some are tracing lines in delicate scripts. Others pause, considering alignment. Some step back, allowing space for reflection. All are coordinated in purpose, yet each acts independently with care. You inhale, feeling the breadth of shared attention. You exhale, sensing calm trust in the process. CRISPR, you understand, can be like this. Many therapies, many interventions, all guided by the principle of careful observation, ethical responsibility, and patience. It is not a single hand rewriting the story. It is a conversation across cells, researchers, patients, and time. You walk along an aisle where several books rest open, their pages glowing faintly in the warm light. A single sentence in one book curves slightly. A librarian traces it, pauses, considers the surrounding context, and adjusts with precision. Nearby, another book is left untouched, its pages open to receive attention when the moment is right. You feel a sense of inclusion, not as a passive observer, not as a subject, but as a participant in the shared responsibility of preserving meaning. Ethics, care, observation, all form a rhythm that flows through the library and, by extension, through life itself. The librarian gestures toward a particularly complex volume. Multiple sentences twist and overlap, delicate connections running through the text. Adjustments here require understanding, not speed. Pauses are taken. Fingertips hover. Corrections occur only when clarity is certain. You breathe in, noticing attentiveness. You breathe out, feeling calm awareness. The books themselves seem to respond to the rhythm. Pages settle. Lines align softly. Margins glow faintly as if acknowledging careful attention. You imagine CRISPR therapies in the same light. Each edit considered, each intervention deliberate, each effect observed over time. No disruption beyond what is necessary. No erasure of identity. Just gentle alignment with the overarching story. A faint smile arises, softly amused by the thought of molecular librarians, each performing their own subtle corrections, moving independently yet harmoniously, maintaining the integrity of the text. The aisles stretch endlessly, reminding you that the future is vast, full of possibilities yet guided by the principles of patience and care. You feel reassured that even as CRISPR therapies expand, they are framed by restraint and mindfulness. The librarian opens a book near the center of the aisle. Its pages shimmer faintly, a delicate reflection of potential. You notice that the text is mostly intact, yet subtle corrections are visible, gentle adjustments that preserve the flow while quietly refining precision. You inhale, feeling the continuity. You exhale, releasing tension and fear. This shared reading, you realize, mirrors the collective responsibility of science. CRISPR does not operate in isolation. It is part of a network. Researchers, ethicists, clinicians, patients, and countless unseen processes, all contributing to the careful shaping of life's text. The librarian steps lightly across the aisle, pausing at a particularly intricate volume. Lines overlap, paragraphs curve, and meaning could shift if handled abruptly. The fingers hover, trace, pause, adjust, observe. Even the smallest adjustment has meaning. Even the faintest attention matters. You sense that caution, collaboration, and respect are central to this shared future. The libraries are many, the librarians diverse, the stories intertwined. Yet all follow the same principles: awareness, patience, integrity. A soft micro-repetition drifts through your mind, faintly humorous. Trace, pause, consider, adjust, repeat. Even the smallest molecular actors follow this gentle rhythm, reinforcing trust. The librarian opens another volume, leaving it partially open to indicate attention, readiness, and respect for timing. You notice the interplay of action and restraint, the careful balance that defines each intervention. You feel grounded, as if the library itself is breathing with you. Inhale, observation. Exhale, calm understanding. CRISPR's future is quiet, collaborative, and ethically guided. It is not about control or dramatic revision. It is about subtle corrections, gentle adjustments, shared responsibility. You watch as several librarians pause together, considering overlapping passages, consulting silently, their gestures slow and deliberate. The light bends softly over their hands, illuminating only what is necessary. The pages glow, aligned yet alive with potential, breathing alongside you. You sense the connection to previous chapters. Cells reading themselves. Small typos gently corrected. Borrowed wisdom from bacteria. Prevention before disease speaks. Therapies quietly unfolding. Limits and caution. All threads converge here, in the shared reading, in the quiet collaboration of many attentive hands. The aisle stretches wider, and the shelves hum softly. Books open, closed, or partially read seem to acknowledge your presence. You feel a deep sense of inclusion, a calm belonging. You walk slowly down the final aisle, the shelves curling gently around you. Light falls softly, golden and warm, touching each spine without glare or haste. You breathe in, feeling the air settle deep into your lungs. You breathe out, letting every muscle relax, letting thought drift like leaves on a still pond. The library feels quieter here, not empty, not silent, but softly resting, aware, attentive. You sense that all the careful work of previous chapters, observation, gentle correction, patience, and restraint, continues even as you pause. You notice a single book open on a low shelf. Its pages glow faintly, warm and steady, like a lamp left on overnight. CRISPR, in this metaphor, is present yet inactive. Watching, ready but calm, never intrusive. You sit beside the book, feeling its warmth against your side. The air hums faintly, like the residual vibration of thoughtful attention. Each breath you take aligns with the gentle rhythm of the library. Inhale, presence. Exhale, calm. Your body feels capable, resilient, watched over. Not because it is perfect, not because every misalignment has been corrected, but because subtle care exists, both within the library and within yourself. The librarian moves slowly past the aisle, adjusting a page here, leaving another untouched there. No rush, no urgency, only the quiet, deliberate presence that has guided every step of your journey. You notice again the delicate humor of tiny readers moving through the library. Even if they were to yawn or fidget, they would do so softly, respecting the rhythm of attention. The thought brings a faint smile, gentle and unhurried. Pages around you seem to breathe with their own subtle rhythm. Lines expand slightly, then settle. Margins stretch and relax. Words shimmer faintly in the golden light. Everything rests, alive but calm. You realize that CRISPR therapies, like the library, are ongoing yet unobtrusive. They do not force completion. They do not demand alarm. They simply exist to guide, protect, and correct when needed. Your own body feels part of this rhythm. Cells continue their quiet work, reading themselves, adjusting gently, repairing where necessary. Breath and blood flow as steady as the soft hum around you. Inhale, alignment. Exhale, reassurance. The open book beside you radiates a quiet trust. Even as you rest, the narrative continues. Even as you pause, subtle attention persists. It does not demand action from you. It does not insist upon concern. It simply exists, a witness to life unfolding with care. You notice the glow of the pages shifting slightly with your movement. Light bends and stretches over words that have been carefully adjusted, carefully observed. Each adjustment is small, measured, meaningful. You feel your chest rise with the rhythm, fall with the rhythm. In this final aisle, you sense the culmination of all previous lessons. Cells reading themselves, typos gently corrected, borrowed wisdom from bacteria, preventive care, therapies quietly taking shape, limits and restraint, shared responsibility. All of it comes together in a stillness that is active yet calm. It is a pause, not an ending. A resting beside the open book, knowing the story continues beyond what you can see. The librarian pauses nearby, hand hovering above another volume. They do not touch. They do not force. They are present, watching, trusting in the process already set in motion. You feel trust radiate from the scene into your body. Muscles loosen. Breath deepens. Thoughts drift softly like clouds, slow and weightless. Even the smallest corrections made earlier seem to pulse faintly in your awareness. Nothing is lost. Nothing is forced. Everything continues in quiet alignment, in gentle, steady rhythm. You close your eyes briefly, sensing the warm light resting across your face. The library hums softly, a sound you feel more than hear. It is continuity, presence, steadiness. You notice the faint smile of understanding that comes from knowing restraint is strong, not weak. Patience is a form of protection. Observation is a form of care. Even silence in this library has purpose. A tiny micro-repetition drifts through your mind, faintly humorous. Trace, pause, adjust, pause, observe. The rhythm of careful attention feels like a heartbeat, steady and reassuring. You breathe in, feeling warmth. You breathe out, feeling calm certainty. CRISPR, remains in this space. It does not intrude. It does not rush. It is a lamp left on overnight, a guardian of the story, present but gentle. You feel a wave of serenity. Your body relaxes deeper into the bench. Your hands rest lightly on the open book. The pages glow faintly, breathing with you, alive without demand. All the previous chapters' lessons flow together here. Early correction, careful observation, gentle intervention, ethical restraint, shared responsibility, patient adjustment. Every idea you've explored blends into this quiet moment of trust. You notice the soft shift of shadows as the light spreads across the shelves. No abrupt change, no glare, only the steady glow of understanding. Your breath becomes a long, slow cycle. Inhale, presence. Exhale, trust. You sense that the library itself is resting with you. The shelves, the books, the librarians, the light, all part of a gentle ecosystem of care. Everything pauses, yet nothing stops. The narrative continues. A faint hum resonates through the aisle. It matches the quiet work of your cells, your own slow and steady heartbeat. You are aligned with the rhythm of subtle care, patient observation, and gentle action. You feel gratitude, not urgent, not effusive, but calm and steady, for the guidance, for the corrections, for the continued presence of care. The librarian steps back, leaving the aisle wide, open, and soft. No page is forced. No correction is rushed. The story is alive, breathing, and accessible. You sense a final reassurance. Even if you leave the library, even if attention pauses, the work continues. CRISPR, care, observation, patience, all persist in quiet alignment. You rest your head lightly against the open book. The pages warm and steady beneath you. You feel watched over. You feel steady. You feel calm. Inhale, steady. Exhale, release. The library dims slowly, not ending, not closing, but resting. Light softens, air settles, pages continue their subtle alignment. You are included, observed, cared for. Your story, like the books, continues without urgency, without concern, without effort. You feel sleep approaching, gentle and slow, like waves brushing against a shore. The open book beside you breathes with you. The shelves hum softly. Your cells continue their quiet work. You are capable, resilient, gently watched over. The warm glow lingers, faint but steady. The library remains open. The narrative continues, and you drift into sleep, knowing that even in stillness, care and alignment persist. One last slow breath in, and a long, quiet release. The library exhales with you. The pages glow softly, aligned, alive, breathing beside you. And the story continues.